Hi buddy, Andy here again, down on the beach. Lovely day. The first day we've had like this for a while actually, because it's been pretty awful. I've described it as living in a cloud to a couple of people. That's what it's been like. But as you can see, it's lovely blue sky today, and the tide's going out, nice sandy beach, etc. You might be able to hear the sea. A subject I've been meaning to talk about for a while, but it's sort of taken a little turn. Age, because my sort of age, early 50s, and how that affects people now. We tend to think of young people, we tend to think of pensioners or older generation people, but us people in the middle, we get a bit left out. And there's been a few things around recently in the media, stories, etc., about retirement, about age generally. And one of them, a couple of them affect me, but one of them was last week. There was a female journalist who took a particular programme to court, effectively, the BBC to court, about the fact that they'd revamped the programme, rescheduled it, but they got rid of all the older presenters, with the barring one of the older male presenters. So there was a sexual bias as well as an age bias thing here. And she actually won her case. And that sort of opened up the floodgates, people talking about people being on TV. Because the idea now, especially in this age of high definition, having just got high definition TV myself, I know what it's like. And people are worried that their wrinkles will show up, their sort of blemishes on their skin, etc., will show up. And I know that's a concern for some people. Obviously, nobody likes to grow old, do they? We want to grow old gracefully, most of us. But it seems to affect women more than men. I don't mean it affects, we all age is exactly the same. But from a producer's or a TV executive or programmer's point of view, it seems to be the older female presenters that are put by the wayside, and they bring in the younger ones. The older males, it doesn't seem to happen to them quite as much. But it is one of those things that is happening now. Also in Britain, what they've just done, a couple of things. The government have just changed the laws on retirement, because up until recently, or up until I think it's April of this year, a company, a firm, whatever, could stipulate that once someone gets to the age of 65, for a man anyway, then they have to retire, regardless of what sort of health they're in, regardless of what they're contributing to the company or whatever it is, that they have to retire. That has been challenged in a few industries. I was in the railway industry, and that had been changed, certainly with all the companies that I knew of, was that if you were still in the right sort of health, you kept up to the medical conditions and all the requirements that were needed, you could stay on. But obviously, as soon as you dip below any particular levels, then you may be asked to leave, which I think is a fair way of doing it. That is more or less what they've done now. They've guaranteed that, I suppose, so that if someone does want to work for longer, they can, obviously, providing they satisfy certain criteria, I suppose. And I think that's a good thing. But a couple of things that's come out of this, obviously it doesn't help the younger people, because if you're still employing older people, then the younger people, therefore, aren't getting those jobs, because that job doesn't become free, does it? With the way that things are going on at the moment, another report saying that the greater increase in unemployed people is the younger people. Now, there's other reasons for that. It might be that if an older person's already in a job and they're doing it well, why get rid of them? Why recruit someone newer, someone younger? Yeah, it's one of those things that's never going to go away. But the other problem that's come along that, in my opinion, is through all this relaxation of retirement laws, the government have also changing the actual retirement age for the state pension that we have here in the UK. It was going to change anyway, certainly for women, but that change has been accelerated, I believe. For example, from now on, it used to be 65 for men. It's now going to be 66 for men as of any time now, I believe, and it's going to an equal for women, 65 as well. Yeah, sex discrimination, age equality and all that sort of stuff. Why should women retire at an earlier age? But I totally understand that this is affecting people's plans. The women were thinking, right, we've only got to get to 60, then we get the state pension. They plan their finances, their own company pensions on that type of thing. And the men, myself included, are the same. Now, I'm not going to get the state pension until I'm 66. My work pension was actually based on the year of 60. So they were expecting me to retire at 60, but the state pension won't kick in until 66. And I fully expect, being in my early 50s, that by the time I get to 66, it will have changed again. I'm in a fairly good position in as much as that I left work with all that stuff that you probably already know about, and I have got a pension. But a lot of other people aren't in that position, and that brings me to the main point of the video, really, is that what's happened now is that people in my position, you get to your late 40s, and up to that time when you collect the state pension, you're in a real limbo. because, as I said before, we're the lost sort of generation in as well. In some ways, everything's geared up for youngsters, for people coming out of school, teenagers, colleges and all that type of thing. There's lots of provisions for people like that, and youth unemployment, etc. There are also lots of provisions for people who are older, retired people. There's things for them to do, there's courses for them to go on, there's organisations, etc. that are geared towards them. There's nothing, as far as I know, really, that's geared to people at my sort of age, from the late 40s, 50s and early 60s as well. Except for maybe women. Women have got other things as well. They have their own organisations. Fair enough. But what happens to people like us? And this really got me thinking. Once I left my job, I thought, and it comes home to you. I said, I'm in a fairly lucky position that, yes, I'm working, but I don't need to go out to find a full-time work. I'm not in dire straits financially, which is very, very good. But I know people who are in that sort of situation, and they are absolutely stuffed because people won't employ people of my type of age for whatever reason. I think they're past it or whatever. There's that whole thing, as I said, with the TV personalities, but it equates to other walks of life as well. And I come up with an idea. One of the ideas I was thinking of when I left work, I think, well, I've realised this situation, talking to other people, there are lots of other people thinking, well, that's right, yes, we are. Well, what I call the gap years. Now, yes, we have, traditionally the gap years was for people leaving school before they started university or college, young people, teenagers, go off, have a gap year, and then they get into their working life and their real life kicks in, I suppose. With us, our gap years are those ones we've been left on the shelf. We've been sort of thrown out, made redundant, unemployed and things like that. I mean, I have a suspicion that part of the reason, at least, that I lost my job was because of my age. No, I can't prove that. Of course I can't, and it may well not be right, but so many other people do lose their jobs for that type of reason. So I came up with this idea of the gap years. I even went as far as getting an email address and a website address as well, and I came up with some other ideas around that, which I'm not going to divulge now, but I've not been able to do anything about that up until now. So there you go. That's one of those things that I'm been thinking about quite a lot. I might take this a bit further, but I'd love to know if anybody else has felt this, whether if you're my sort of age, you find you are stuck in those sort of gap years, and it's not just 1 year, it could be up to about 15 years as well, and older people and younger people, whether you find you're being discriminated against or just being left on the shelf these days. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'm going to enjoy the beach a little bit longer. Goodbye.